Hi, this is Marney Edwards. Welcome to Loadsmart Partner Chat. Today we're going to talk about the annual RFP process and why we think it's dying or it's dead or it's on its last breath. Really, the challenges of an annual RFP come down to three things. One is it's a really time-consuming, resource-grabbing kind of situation. It takes a lot of people a lot of time to do this once a year on an annual basis. Two is the information just becomes stale over time. And then finally, the yearly pricing is unstable. And so as you've seen in the last couple of years, the pricing has gone up and down. We see that continuing into the future. So we don't say to be the experts in this. And so we brought on along a couple of our partners to talk to about this and ask them some questions. Feldhacker has about 15 plus years of experience in the brokerage services industry, and he's really going to let us know what the brokerages are doing out there in the 3PLs. And then we've got Dennis Heppner, who is a subject matter expert and a principal at JBF Consulting. And his clients are he's got 30 years of experience, and most of his clients are in the shipping side. So let me ask, these are the experts, so let's ask them. So Rush, what are you seeing, or what are your clients seeing with the annual RFP process? Is this something that is going to continue going forward, or is it something that's probably on its last legs?
Well, first, thanks for having me on today. Excited to discuss this with you. But annual RFPs have been a staple of this industry for a long time, but I do think they are and will continue to be replaced by shorter bid cycles, especially when you look at the market now. As we see this steep decline in freight rates, shippers are incentivized to perform RFPs more frequently to lock in those better rates as the rate ramp goes lower and lower. But even during the last few years, which saw rapidly increasing or all-time high rates, a lot of shippers felt their bids became quickly outdated, and more of what was previously contract freight was working its way to the spot board. I think the primary deterrent keeping shippers from doing multiple bids in a year has been just resources, money, and time. But now with the tech in the space and with the RFP management solutions available, that becomes a lot less of a burden. So I do think the annual RFP is dying, and more shippers will go to shorter bid cycles, especially in times of high volatility like we've seen the last 2 to 3 years.
Fantastic. And Dennis, what is JBF seeing, from the shipper side on this area? What are some of the changes in processes? What are they doing differently?
Yeah, and thank you as well, Marnie, for this partner chat today. Tagging on to what Russ just finished his answer with is market volatility. It's a huge concern, and our shipper clients are seeing that it's becoming more of a transactional relationship versus more of a true relationship with their carrier base. So that's one. Yes, the annual bid seems to be dying, and not for everybody. There's still some part of the market that it's fine, but they generally just don't work anymore because of the what we call the paper rates decaying very quickly. And we see that with shippers jumping from contract to spot and back and forth over the last, let's call it, couple of years. Additionally, some of the other than RFP guide and perhaps some others, the traditional tools out there just weren't nimble enough. They couldn't react quick enough, and there was still a heck of a lot of work that had to be done. Front-end data prep, and then back-end doing scenario management, and then ultimately loading my rates. Another point is our shipper clients want to be exposed to the larger carrier market. They want to know, other than their incumbents that they've been doing business for many years, who else is out there that can provide me the service rates and capacity that I'm looking for. And it's very time consuming to go out and do that research and find them. And then I alluded to a moment ago, finally, is doing that scenario management. So if I put different constraints on the bids that I get back, and I say things like, I want to have a certain percent of my awards go to minority-based or minority-owned carriers. What does that look like? What's the impact? If it's smart way carriers, whatever it might be, I want to be able to do that analysis. And so with tools that are available now, I can do that, and I can do that much more quickly and more cost effectively.
Got it. Thank you, Dennis. So jumping back to you, Rush, nobody likes change. I don't like change. Change is tough. Change is hard. It's never easy. Are there positive impacts to those organizations, to those brokerages that are shifting to the shorter bid cycle?
Yeah, this is definitely going to have an impact on all brokerages, and I think it can be positive or negative based on how you situate yourself, knowing the change is coming. So the old customer sales guy in me kind of cringes when I think about doing 2 to 4 times the amount of bids as I did in the past. But I think that the days of having a sales rep stay late to plug in thousands of manual rates into an Excel sheet only using DAT are over, and that's a good thing. So the change doesn't necessarily have to be bad. But if I owned a 3PL right now, there are definitely some questions I'd ask myself. They would center around customer relationships, data, and then carrier sourcing. And we'll start with data. The first thing I'd want to know is, do I currently have the tools to quote these bids in a timely and accurate way? Second would be people. Do I have a pricing director or pricing team, knowing I have to bid a lot more often? Or am I going to stay with having a ops rep or a sales rep quote these, knowing it's going to take a lot more of their time and probably wouldn't be as accurate? And then how good is my internal data? Do I have good data integrity? If my rep looks up a lane from Atlanta to Dallas in the system and gets a rate per mile, can they have faith in that number? And is that number accurate? Or is that number going to be skewed because things haven't been marked correctly in the system and they're pulling in a lot of different mode types, whether it's partial or LTL, that's going to throw that number off. So then you think about customer relationships. Obviously, those are always critical, but they're even more critical now. And the talking points are going to change a little because bid strategy is going to have to become a larger part of the conversation, since it's going to be going on more frequently than just once a year. So your awarded lanes are going to be constantly under attack now. It's not just a once a year thing. When brokers have these awarded lanes, a lot of times they have these set to carriers as dedicated lanes. So those are very low cost to serve loads for a broker. They want to hold on to those, but their network density is also dependent on having those loads in network. So if they can count on having 3 trucks go from Chicago to Milwaukee every day for a customer, well, they probably have loads back for those carriers from Milwaukee to Chicago that they're also going to have at risk. So it's important they have the relationship with their customer where they can go and negotiate with the customer to leave certain lanes off of the upcoming bid, or can at least have the option to maybe match a rate to keep those lanes within their network. And then capacity sourcing and procurement becomes even bigger, because if you have a brokerage, there's a St. Paul to Reno that you haven't run ever, and you get awarded that, and you have to spin up capacity for it really quick, you need to do that in a way that doesn't cost you a lot of money or resources, because 3 to 6 months down the road, you might not have those loads in your network anymore. So from a brokerage perspective, the game is changing. The buttoned up brokers with high data integrity and strong sourcing and pricing departments are going to be at a distinct advantage, especially if they have strong sales teams that view this as a positive, that they're going to be able to go out and attack others' lanes and rake in more contract business right now, which is what brokers ultimately want right now, is more contract business and less spot. So it can definitely be a positive. It's just making sure that you're positioning yourself to take advantage of it.
Got it. Thank you, Rush. So Dennis, kind of the same question. You work with large shippers, ocean, drayage, all sorts of stuff, very complex processes. Are they seeing a benefit from a shorter bid cycle as well?
They are, and I'll answer that one in 2 ways, Marnie. And let's just focus up for the sake of our discussion here on truckload. But from a macro perspective, and what we talk to our clients a lot about when we engage with them to assist with this process and using a technology such as RFP Guide, is one, they're going to get some repeatable processes that they're going to have in place so they can very quickly spin up another bid and start looking at, instead of the entire network, looking at subsets of their network. It might be a certain geography or whatever it might be. Also, the flexibility that I have doing this. I can, if I'm doing a good job of looking at my historical data and I recognize some trends or patterns, then I can spin up a bid pretty quickly to try to address that. Um, Obviously, speed to contracts is huge. Exposure to new carriers and capacity, and then ultimately, being technology geeks that we are, we want to see that integration of the tool, the bid event tool, into their TMS. So not only do we get these rates, we can actually use these rates. And then from a relatively micro perspective, with some of our shipper clients, obviously they're seeing big results, right? They're getting big rate improvements. They're getting some capacity they maybe weren't aware of or that they didn't have visibility to previously. And they're getting some new carriers into the mix. And that's not a bad thing, right? Competition's a good thing. Uh, many of our shipper clients, it's been a cost avoidance. Frankly, it's kind of holding steady instead of just being at the mercy of the market. And then the final one that I'll mention is, and I already alluded to this, is getting a larger mix of asset-based carriers, brokers, different regional carriers, local carriers, national carriers, whatever it might be, just to get a diversity in my carrier base. And again, to have that visibility to that is a huge value to them.
Fantastic. Russ, Dennis, thank you so much. Really appreciate the time. Appreciate you joining us on the Loadsmart Partner Chat to talk about the annual RFP process. To kind of sum it up, I think there were really three kind of themes that came out of it. One is you really need to find a tool that's easy to use, that not only IT can use it, but the front of the line business folks can and procurement can also leverage it. Two, you really need to find something that's freight specific, something that really focuses on this industry. And then third, I think Dennis and Russ both alluded to this, is it's important that this thing be compatible or somehow integrate in with your current IT system. Again, thank you for joining us. Have a great day.